So Juan, amazing to join you here at the DevConnect co-working space as part of the ETH Amsterdam Hackathon. Would love if you could start just briefly sharing obviously about yourself and about Protocol Labs, even though you need no introduction.
No, thank you. So my name is Juan. I started Protocol Labs, which is an R&D innovation network. We have built protocols like IPFS and Filecoin and DRAM and libp2p and a bunch of other really awesome things that a lot of people use in the Web3 space. We've been around the Ethereum community and others for many years. We help a lot of builders create kind of the future of Web3 and the future of computing.
Definitely, that's amazing, man. And I think the words on all of our lips right now is really focusing around regenerative crypto economics and what that might mean for the future of both our communities, but also how our communities will provide impact to the rest of the world. And obviously it's something we're also passionate about at Atlantis World with planting the carbon capturing virtual forest and working together with Toucan. I would love if you could share more just about regenerative crypto economics.
Yeah. So regenerative crypto econ is a discipline that is taking kind of what we know about crypto economics and applying it to build very kind of positive sum environments or exothermic environments, building systems that produce positive externalities that are fixing a lot of things in the world. So you can think of like the degen sense or like the kind of cyberpunk vision to be kind of like this more negative vision of the future. It's not necessarily negative, but it's kind of like dark and it focuses on a lot of the problems that might come about in the future. And instead, kind of like the solar punk vision is one where we can think of like the future can be great if we can build those things. We can build an amazing environment that where we kind of like fix the problems of climate change. We can help humans around the world and other living systems live in much better harmony, where we can build much more scalable infrastructure to satisfy all the different kinds of needs that many different groups have and many people have, and get to kind of a much better future. And so the solar punk ethos is one where how are you going to kind of visualize some very optimistic vision of the future and then try to break it down into large challenges that you want to kind of solve along the way to get there. And regenerative crypto economics, so like the regen movement, is one where we kind of can use the magic of crypto economics, where you can design incentive structures and design, you can lean into programmable money to build systems and infrastructure that can create incentive structures for people to build these kinds of systems with positive externalities. So think of like communities like the Filecoin community or the Ethereum community or and so on as building this great infrastructure that a lot of people can rely on and depend on and build good systems on. And the whole thing is partially a public good, a great part of public good that you can use to build other kinds of things. And so it is those are regenerative systems that require some capital to build and generate some capital along the way, but overall are kind of creating a lot of positive externalities in the systems around them. So regen crypto econ is just this broader this broader movement to kind of solve humanity's grandest problems or largest challenges by breaking them down into much more tractable, solvable problems and designing kind of structures to incentivize a lot of people around the world to solve them. So
I love that, man. I'm a regen maxi. I love the space. I think it's so powerful. That's how we're also trying. I mean, I hosted a Kernel Gento. I don't know if you know Kernel. It's like Gitcoin accelerator program.
Kernel's awesome. Yeah.
Over a year ago, how to gamify carbon credits, and that's why we are moving towards the forest and all of this regen stuff. But I mean, I loved your talk yesterday at the Shelling Point event. I'm wearing the Shelling Point t-shirt. Atlantis World is actually one of the sponsors.
Watch the talks, they're on YouTube.
Exactly. I would love if you could share just briefly about Filecoin Green and what the kind of direction you guys are moving in with that.
So we want to take regen crypto econ principles and use that to make, to kind of solve the climate change problem. And we want to kind of, in the long term, a lot of us in our communities want to do something about climate change and kind of decarbonize the planet and build a much more sustainable future. And the way to get there is like, in order to kind of convince the world that to become carbon negative, to be able to kind of fix all the carbon in the world, we have to kind of decarbonize our industries. And in order to decarbonize our industries, we first have to like create a model industry that is just doing so well, that is not only reduces its emissions down to zero and becomes neutral, but actually goes beyond that and starts fixing carbon in the planet and starts becoming carbon negative. to create a massive positive externality. If we can create an industry like that, that can be a model industry that other industries might then be pressured to follow and create competitive pressure. So now in order to do that, we can start with a subset of all the industry in the world and start with kind of the computing infrastructure. So let's just take the computing industry and decarbonize that, make that carbon negative. In order to get there, we can start with like a smaller industry, like the crypto community. Let's decarbonize the entire crypto community. Like, let's first start there before we kind of go to those larger problems. And now crypto is like very large. There's a lot of different networks, a lot of different systems. Many communities around the crypto space are trying to grapple with this problem. We have to contend with things like proof of work that are wasting an enormous amount of energy and just causing a lot of coal burning and so on. There's a lot of good renewable as well, but until it's verifiable, we can't really guarantee it. And so, in order to move the entire crypto space to be not just carbon neutral, but really carbon negative and start fixing carbon in the ground, we're gonna start even smaller than the crypto space because it's pretty large. So we decided to get Filecoin there first, and then to have Filecoin serve as a model example for many other crypto networks. And if we can do that, then we can convince the crypto space, which then we can convince other computing infrastructure things, and then we can convince other industries, and we can convince the world. So, great. How are we going to do that with Filecoin Green? We start with estimating the energy power use of all of the nodes running the Filecoin network, so all of the storage providers. We can do that because we know how much storage they're running. We know the types of hardware that are involved in producing the computation, and we can estimate an upper bound of the total amount of energy that particular storage providers are using in particular regions. And so we kind of create a structure where we're trying to create a structure where either a storage provider has to demonstrate that they are verifiably green, so they are themselves either have renewable energy certificates that show that they've used renewable energy to power their systems, or we just assume that they're not, and then we, as a network, pay for those renewable energy certificates in their grid. So we're creating a system where, this is live running now. We have estimates of all the storage provider use around the world, and we can then, using those estimates, buy renewable energy certificates that offset all of the use by showing that the energy they're pulling out of the grid at the same time is renewable energy coming in. So we figure out exactly what energy draw from the grid happened and precisely where, in which grid, which part of the world, and precisely how much energy. And we buy renewable energy certificates at precisely those moments in time, so we can know that as we're drawing energy out of the grid, we're putting solar or wind or water energy that's coming from renewable resources, so that we have a fully green system. Once we do that, then that's a huge check mark. That's all kind of green energy. From there, we have to start doing applying pressure to say hardware manufacturers to make the hardware itself be much more green, and so on. And we're kind of creating a larger movement around these kinds of systems, creating verifiable structures for doing offsets or proving that you are using certain kinds of resources and not others, and so on. So that whole project is decarbonizing Filecoin and making it highly carbon negative, not just neutral, but negative. And once we do that, we can have by far the greenest blockchain in the world, and that will serve us as a big rallying cry for the entire rest of the crypto community to join us. And if they join us and we can make crypto green, very green, then we can walk up to the rest of the world to turn other industries green. So that's the broader picture.
So what you're saying is that by decarbonizing Filecoin and making that a real kind of core focus, we can really start the domino effect of encouraging more and more people to go carbon, not just carbon neutral, but also carbon negative.
Because once Filecoin becomes the greenest blockchain in the world, then other blockchains will want to compete and become the greenest blockchain in the world. And so that way we can shift the entire industry into
and that's regenerative crypto economics, right?
Exactly.
And if you could just quickly also share, because that's not the only thing that you're doing, right? If you could also quickly share about funding the commons, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so funding the commons is another project that we're engaged in, where we're building a space for conversations about these kinds of systems, about tackling large-scale problems with incentive structures and mechanism design and regenerative crypto econ. It's kind of like Shelling Point. So Shelling Point and Funding the Commons are related events. They're both really awesome. And so we're creating an avenue where people can come together and present their work, present ideas, present ideally kind of experimental results. So it's a technical conference that is meant to kind of showcase a lot of the great work that's happening in the regen crypto space, and a ton of ideas from Funding the Commons are now being implemented and run. It involves kind of different things, kind of like funding structures, or like different ways of doing grant systems, different ways of building new kinds of organizations that can solve certain problems, like new kind of research institutions. So think of like a research DAO type of thing, or like a science DAO type of structure. And so all of those kinds of systems are getting presented at Funding the Commons. So we have a big conference coming up in June, middle of June, in Austin.
I'll be there, man.
Great.
I'll be there. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank you
so much, man. It's amazing, man.
See you.